Now, the issue we're discussing today on Left, Right and Centre, cyber attacks in India are increasing, but are we prepared? India reported 53,000 cyber attacks last year, and this is when a lot of cyber crime goes unreported. A majority of the hackers are from the US and China, followed by Pakistan and Russia. Now, NDTV's science editor Pallav Bagla did participate in a special meeting at the Defence Research and Development Organization that's assessed India's cyber vulnerability. Startups are helping to accelerate cyber security. Take a look at this report.
Cybercrime is little understood, even though computers and smartphones have eased life. Yet, almost all devices leak information, making the digital world a highly vulnerable place. Even the normally shy defense establishment is opening up to speak about the vulnerabilities of cybersecurity.
Security is one area where it is more of asymmetric, and there can be rogue elements. There can be fancy people who can be developing many products which can be creating trouble to the nation. So we need to work on all these areas continuously and need to develop products which are one step ahead of the adversaries.
Today, security agencies are using facial recognition techniques developed by Indian startups to identify rioters and stone pelters.
Traditionally, we have been very dependent on foreign countries for imports like Israel, but now startups are, rubbing shoulders with all of these and are producing world-class products.
Mobile phones are the most vulnerable to cyber attacks, but a startup based in Bengaluru has developed this new smartphone which they say is fully secure.
This is a phone which is completely secure, and all the data within this system is held back in India. So nothing goes out of the country, and it upholds our data privacy laws.
At the national meet, the Niti Aayog identified some of the big vulnerabilities for India. A whopping 98% of the cyber hardware is imported, which makes it highly vulnerable. India has not made any operating system. This makes all cyber devices vulnerable to backdoor attacks. Despite all these cyber vulnerabilities, India's cybersecurity chief is still cautiously optimistic. How secure are we, sir?
We are very secure. I mean, if you see the UN list, we are at the 20th, and many countries, many advanced countries are below us.
But why do we hear of so many infiltrations, so many hacking, so many break-ins?
So the technology is changing. Technology innovations are happening a lot. That innovations is taking at a much faster pace than what you can produce the equipment for defense.
Cybersecurity is one area where guns really don't help. What helps is brain power, and India has a lot of it. In New Delhi, Pallav Bagla for NDTV.
All right, to talk more about cybersecurity in India, we're joined by Dr. K.D. Naik, former cybersecurity expert, DRDO, Jitin Jain, CEO of Indian InfoSec Consortium, Samira Anja, co-founder and CEO of Arca, and Ritesh Bhatia, cybersecurity expert. Thank you all for being here. Dr. Naik, I'd like to start with you. Is India an easy target? Are we more vulnerable than other countries when it comes to cybersecurity? Yes. Dr. Naik, if you can hear me.
Can you repeat your question? I'm not able to get it clear.
Yes, is India an easy target? That's what we're discussing today, whether we are an easy target. Are we more vulnerable to hacking and cyber attacks than other countries?
No, as Pallav has told earlier and Satish Reddy has told, we are as vulnerable as other countries. But since we are having a large volume, what I call number of people on the cyber world now, I think we are going to be we are the fastest growing cyber country in the world now. Where probability is there, we have got a more attack. Otherwise, I don't think we have got a special target as such, as per my feeling is that.
All right, so you feel we're as vulnerable as any other country and we're reasonably safe. Jitin, I'd like to come to you next. And, Pallav spoke about in his report there about smartphones, how everybody has a smartphone these days, how internet is increasing across the country, and this is what's making us more vulnerable.
I think I partially agree with Dr. Nayak when he says that, we are as vulnerable as, other countries. But, where I differ is that I think we have got a higher set perception because, we are living in a hostile neighborhood. And then, if you look in last 5 to 7 years, we have become one of the, fastest growing economies in the world. And a major part of the economy is a digital economy. We have seen a gigantic leap, in the Digital India campaign, where most of public delivery services have gone online. Most of the payment services have gone online, especially after demonetization. So our digital footprint is, in comparison to other countries, is much higher, and that is what makes us more vulnerable and put us in a higher perception category. So far as the question of smartphones and smart devices is concerned, I think that is a threat which has been looming from past many years. And NDTV has done many stories on cyber espionage on mobile phones. We have had suspicious campaigns done by hostile agencies in our neighborhood. So if you look at the overall footprint in India, and then the biggest challenge what we are facing is that along with growth, we have got around 20 to 25% increase in the smartphone users every year. And there is a huge percentage of population which is logging on to the internet and smartphone for the first time in their life, especially the elderly people. And they are, and there is absolutely lack of digital hygiene and cyber education in the country, which is making a large amount of population vulnerable to, if not cyber attacks, at least cyber crimes, especially the economic crimes.
You're talking about individual cyber crimes here, of individuals being vulnerable to cyber hacks.
Footprints we have, yes.
All right, Samir, Anja, I'd like to, put this to you next. And, we recently had this incident just in August where you had a cooperative bank that got hacked and 98 crores was siphoned off. So that was something I think that caused a lot of alarm among many. And, so these kind of attacks, especially on financial institutions, is something that is a worry. Which are the most vulnerable sectors when it comes to cyber attacks?
There's a myth that there is only a particular sector that is vulnerable. I don't think something like that. Sectors across are vulnerable. If you look at motivation from the attackers, obviously they're going to go after where the money is for, and hence the banks become the easiest target that is there, or the most visible. But other than that, I don't think there is a particular sector that is not. We have handled situations where companies in the manufacturing sector have also been attacked. And there is money that has been spent off there also. It's just the quantum of money that gets siphoned off in a bank is much larger. And most of these attacks today, because of the fact that we are really not aware of what can happen to us and how it can happen to us. We've suddenly had this explosion of data coming in. Data that was not available so easily earlier is now available easily across the country. And that has created its own set of internet era generation, which is not fully aware of how they can be attacked. A lot of other countries are already higher on the maturity curve, higher on the awareness curve, whereas that's something that we need to still get in there. So the more awareness we do, a lot of these actors are going to stop the attacks portion.
All right, Ritesh, do you agree with what Dr. Nayak said about how that, we're not any more vulnerable than any other country and we're reasonably safe from cyber attacks?
No, I wouldn't say we're reasonably safe as such, but I partially agree with him that as far as vulnerability is concerned, we are as vulnerable as any other nation.
All right.
But yes, we really need to beef up a lot in terms of cyber security, as my other co-panelists also mentioned about the cyber hygiene missing, the cyber awareness missing. But the other thing is the technology adoption. We have adopted technology very fast, but what we missed was security by design and privacy by design. And that is making us more vulnerable. Plus, more importantly, Gargi, we have still been using at many of the places, including at government organizations also, we've been using quite a lot of outdated systems, whether be it operating systems or hardware. And that is something that we really need to act on soon.
All right. Also, like Pallav in his report talks about how 98% of the cyber hardware that we have is imported, and this actually increases our vulnerability.
Can I come in here?
All right, yes, Jitin, go ahead.
We are an economy which has got an import bill of, a telecom import bill of more than $98 billion. And 98% of that telecom import will, I mean, if you look at the dongles which are used to connect our laptops and stuff to internet, 98% of them have been, made in China. Even our public service providers like BSNL, MTNL have been using those same Chinese chips. So there has been, I mean, I'm not belittling the effort of government. If you talk about operating systems and all, CDAC has done a phenomenal work on an operating system called BOSS. Air Force is using their own operating system called Vayu Sainik. But the problem here is that government does not adopt its own technology which is developed by a different department. And we are seeing a scenario where, one hand does not know what the other hand is doing, and 5 different departments are working on the same technology. And technology which is already developed by one department is being, still under development by any other department. So I think it's not a question of what we don't have. I think the bigger challenge here is that government itself does not know what it actually has on the table in different departments. And so far as hardware point is concerned, we have not done anything to even test the hardware which we are importing. There are a couple of labs, one like ISC Bangalore, what we have. But if you look at the funding model, their prime sponsors are companies like Cisco, Huawei, and other foreign companies. And they have hardly flagged any hardware in last 5 to 7 years, saying that it may be a vulnerable. We have got companies like, Huawei and ZTE, which have been banned in several countries across the world. But we have not seen any red flag here in India. So
all right.
So there is an absence of political will here to deal with this problem.
Right, Dr. Naik, I'd like to come back to you. So what Jitin was talking about, we need a bigger push in developing our own operating systems, developing more technology within India. And that is something that would help make it safer for various organizations, even government organizations that are vulnerable to attacks.
Yeah, I agree with Jain on that. The problem is most of the hardware, as we are told that earlier, is imported. 98% is imported. But the thing is, there are Indian companies who are coming out now. Good startups are coming in. Even the backbone of the cybersecurity, basically our networks, what you can call is routers, switching, and all those things are being now developed in India. I think about 5-6 companies are doing it. But probability of manufacturing is not that high. We have to put our strength on manufacturing. And I think the recent mighty policy on the electronics policy will give impetus to this. I think that will solve a lot of problems. The problem is when manufacturing comes in, unless the small scale or the bigger manufacturer will not come in unless government gives the preferential market access. The probability is, since we are not supporting our industry to that extent, unless the new policy is approved of, then we will have a problem of the vulnerabilities. The most of the hardware or the software which is coming in is imported. That's the maximum vulnerability point of view. But I feel that Indians can do it, and the technologies and startups and small SMEs and MSCs are doing it, and we only have to give them support, the government support, so that by bringing some clauses like preferential market access in the government sector and wherever critical infrastructure is there, they should be mandated to use the indigenous system only. Then these vulnerabilities can be reduced. I can't say 100% because any
but that would go a long way in reducing.
That is the main problem.
All right, that would go a long way in reducing the vulnerability. Ritesh, what is your response to that? And Pallav in that again in that report talks a lot about how startups are doing a lot in this space of cybersecurity.
Yes, see, the startup ecosystem is extremely important for any particular sector's growth. Now, today, if you see Israel, why has Israel become the best country for cybersecurity? It's because of the startup ecosystem, and it had a lot of support from its academia, from its military, and from the government. If you see that. So that is the same model. I think it really needs to be replicated over here also. There is not much encouragement to the startups. Whatever is happening more of it at a private level. It is happening at a government level, I'm not denying it, but it can happen at a much higher level from the government, and if that particular push is there, because we really have some of the best brains in our country also, and that can be used. Even as far as indigenous products are concerned, if you look at BARC, it's developed fantastic indigenous products. Now those are the products, like as Jitain was saying, there are many the government also doesn't know who's made what. So such kind of thing, this particular pool needs to come together, has to do information sharing, that this is what we have developed, and then it should be taken forward.
All right, Samir, I have to say, I'm surprised to hear that, and I'd like you also to come in here. I would have imagined the government would be giving more support or would be better organized when it comes to issues like this? Because this is something we've been talking about for a while, but clearly not enough.
Yeah, so the government overall as a startup ecosystem obviously has to support more. That's something that goes without saying. But when you look at cyber security, it's not just about hardware and software that come. It's also about how they are configured, how, as we were rightly saying, security by design comes. So I can take hardware from anywhere, I can take software from anywhere. But if I have not put the correct rules in place, immaterial of whether the hardware is made in India or outside, I will still have the same dangers of the same attacks coming in. Today, we are not experiencing too many attacks on the cybersecurity systems that are developed in India because they have not been used so much, and we are seeing more attacks on the other. But attacks are always going to come. Only by creating something in India, it's not going to change. It's great for the startup ecosystem to have something being created in India. There is a lot of strength today in terms of localizing the cybersecurity initiatives, also localizing the hardware and software that needs to be built here, because our country's requirements are different. And as we get into more sensitive infrastructure like the power, the plant, as well as the telecom and the banks, we need more and more proprietary items to be sitting there rather than just foreign imported stuff. So to that extent, that makes sense. However, that's not the part of the solution, and you still need to add more.
Right, Dr. Naik, we're running out of time now, but what would you like can you tell us one or two steps that you would like to see taken to increase cybersecurity in this country?
Firstly, I will say that we should put
Yes, go ahead.
Firstly, I would like to say that we believe in our indigenous product. That's one thing we have to strongly believe in. Indigenous products are available and they should be given a preference as like other countries have been doing. I don't want to name which countries are doing it. If you give that sort of a thing, then that automatically the interest will come in the industries to manufacture them, and we should give support for these industries. And we, as everybody on the panel are saying, that we have a capability, but only it needs to be supported, and we can do that. Even the software level, I don't say that we are completely blank on that. Somebody is feeling we have our own OS developments are happening in the government departments. I think they can be done. Even the other research institutions like CDAC and all are doing also, in DRDO is doing. But I don't think they are being commercialized yet.
All right, Jitin, final word to you. Yes, Jitin, come in.
There are two wonderful things which have happened from the government in the last 2-3 years. One, they have removed all the eligibility conditions to startups to compete with foreign companies. For example, you don't need a prior turnover of hundreds of crores now. You don't need to have an experience of 20 years. Today, an Indian startup can compete with a foreign company without any eligibility condition. Number two, this year government has come out with a preferential market access policy for cybersecurity companies in India. So I think there is a transformation which is taking place already, but I think we are just a couple of years away from to see the results.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us on this topic. And clearly, a lot more can be done, and the government needs to help direct everyone. As you're all saying here, the brain power is there. It just needs a little bit of a nudge from the government to help develop more systems within the country. Thank you for joining us on this debate today.